Hello there, and welcome to the studio. Today I'm going to give you a few noteworthy insights on how I arranged, produced, and mixed Warmageddon. For the last couple of songs I released, I've made two quite lengthy videos about how I've gone through the entire mixes. They get so lengthy that I've needed to split them up in two parts. So this time I'm going to condense the content a little bit and pick out a few particular tricks I've employed for this song. I hope you'll learn something. First and foremost, let's take a look at the drums and bass. To me, drums and bass constitute the backbone of a production, and if the groove isn't well defined, everything just falls apart. The drum kit itself is a Superior Drummer 3 kit from the Progressive Foundry expansion. This is what it sounds like without any processing. First, I'm going to bring in the processing I've done with the Superior mixer. As you can hear, the most significant change is that I'm bringing out the room and overhead microphones quite a bit. For the shells, meaning kick, snare, and toms, the main processing is about decreasing the sustain of the hits slightly, because later, when I'm going to hit these hard with compression and distortion, that also has a tendency of bringing out some unnecessary rumble. Now, the kit sounds a bit unbalanced, but let's bring in the rest of the processing. There we go. Kick and snare close mics are sitting loud and proud in the drum mix. The cymbal and room mics are audible and clear. They add brilliance and spaciousness, but the kick and snare is what is driving this groove. Let's bring in the bass. Something I often do with electric basses to achieve greater control is that I split the signal like this. These two audio tracks are identical, but I process them very differently. The upper version is very dark, deep, and woolly, with a focus around 80 to 100 Hz. I'm also using this frequency plugin that has one dynamic band that triggers off of the kick drum and compresses the entire low end every time the kick hits. I do this to leave more room for the low end on the kick, and it sounds quite severe. But when I bring in the other bass channel, the bass sounds even. And this is one of the benefits with splitting the channels like this. This sound file with the processing that's on the other channel sounds like this. Kind of thin and plonky, but also quite clean. So where is that crazy distortion coming from? You see, right here you can see that I'm sending this channel's audio to an effect channel called Bass Cab. Bass Cab's got Decapitator and Omega on it, both driving the sound into distortion. And then I dialed in the volume of this effect channel until it cut through the mix in a way that I liked. pretty gnarly. I really like it. So that's how I established the foundation with drums and bass. Let's take a closer look at the Armageddon choir. The backbone of the choir are these Hollywood VST choirs from East West. They have a very neat word builder function, so they almost sound like people singing words. I say almost because if you solo it out and listen closely, it sounds a bit weird. So, in order to breathe some life into it, I added a bunch of recorded voices by me and a couple of friends. Armageddon. Armageddon. Combined, it sounds pretty natural. You get the good pronunciation and closeness from the recorded vocals, and the largeness from the VST choirs. Okay, let's pivot and talk about transitions for a minute. For a track like this, you want the full force of the drums, guitars, and bass to hit you with maximum strength, depth, width, clarity, etc., as the chorus hits. But this is true for most genres. As the chorus hits, or the hook, you want to feel that. And to create impact, you need contrast. Let me show you a couple of ways how I'm achieving that in this particular song. So, the first way to create interesting transitions is by arrangement. Coming from the first verse, which has percussion loops and drums that are very dense and boomy, I'm switching it up to a real drum kit, but I'm also opening up the arrangement. It becomes quite sparse. It's heavy, but I'm leaving plenty of space for silence. Next, I'm using automation to create contrast. Let me solo the drums and listen how they become more distorted, thin, and narrow during the duration of the bridge. I have used a plugin that is literally designed for things like this called Transit by Baby Audio. Transit has these modular slots where you put different effects, in this case, filters, distortion, and stereo spread. Then you connect these modules to one big shiny knob and it's very convenient, especially if you're new to automation. It's basically a macro control for controlling several parameters. In this particular case, I'm pulling up transit to around 30%, which is enough to create the contrast I'm looking for. If we scroll down a little bit to the bass, I'm just doing a simple high-pass filter sweep at the end of the bridge. Very easy to do. Just roll off the bass in order for the bass to be more impactful and felt as the chorus hits. I'm using another instance of transit on the guitars as well. The idea is the same. This is another custom setup where I'm downsampling, filtering, and pulling the guitars almost into mono, to then explode with full frequency spectrum and width as the chorus hits. Okay, great. So the arrangement and the mix is working together to create an exciting transition. But I've employed a couple of other production tricks as well to emphasize that something exciting is coming. Let's head up to the SFX folder, where I have risers and explosion sound effects. Let's hear that with the drums for some context. Alright, so these two are risers from the Rise and Hit Contact library. And down here I have actual samples of explosions, which I thought was very fitting for a song about war. Here I simply copied the samples, reversed these ones to create this backwards ramp, and voila! Let me end this video with a funny story of how this song came to be called Warmageddon. I wrote it as Armageddon throughout the lyrics, and that was the name of the song. However, when I got the vocals from Johannes and I heard them, well... It sounds exactly like he's saying Warmageddon. And in the context of the theme, it actually made sense, so I adjusted the name accordingly. Gotta roll with the punches. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this different angle, where I focus on a few key points and talk about the philosophy behind it instead of geeking out too hard on individual plugins, etc. If you found this helpful, and if you enjoy my music, consider becoming a patron. As a patron, you can download all the songs I release, plus instrumentals, draft versions, and more. Remember, if you're writing, producing, or mixing music, don't get too hung up on tricks and techniques. The important thing is how it feels. See you next time. Bye-bye. What is the purpose of this power if I can't be